few months ago, I released a brand new Lightroom profile, and so far the feedback has been really great, but I've had a lot of people requesting that I do a video, sort of an update on how I edit my digital images with this new Lightroom profile. When you import a photo into Lightroom, a profile is a compulsory part of that process. It's what helps you to visualize the raw data. Now, one of the best things about a profile over a preset is that it doesn't actually change or manipulate any of the sliders in the Lightroom develop panel. So that's really cool because it allows you to go in and make a lot of tweaks and changes in whichever way you see fit on top of that profile. Lightroom definitely gives you a lot of control over your image, but there were just some tools that I found that weren't in Lightroom that kind of was a bit of a setback when it came to me actually creating a signature look. And so being able to use lookup tables and all sorts of different controls to create the profile, it definitely helped me be a little bit more precise in terms of the direction that I wanted to go with the look and feel of my work. I'm in Lightroom now. I've opened a catalog of images that I shot a little while ago, and the step that you aren't seeing that I've already done is, of course, culling this photo shoot. So I took many more photos than what you see here in this catalog, but then I edited down my selections using an app that I absolutely love called Narrative Select, which is free, by the way. Super useful. And I'm just going to go through at random, pick some photos and edit them for you guys so you can see how I use the Lightroom profiles. So as you can see on the left hand side here, we have my Helio presets, which is what I was using before, and they do a great job. I still use them from time to time, but I specifically developed this profile in a different way. So it is a profile, and the way you access it after it has been installed is in this profile section on the right hand side of the develop module. So if you just click on this, then I already have my Natura profiles here ready to select. Now, if you've already bought the pack, you probably only have 3, and I've got a 4th one here, Natura T. If you don't have that one yet, make sure you check your emails because I did push an update to include that new profile. So how you actually get them in this drop down menu is you need to go into the profile browser here and then scroll all the way down, and then you'll just click on this little star in the top right hand corner and that will add it to your favorites. So then that means that once you close the profile browser, it's just going to come up here immediately. All these photos were shot on the GFX 100S, but I specifically designed this profile to work with any camera. So I have Sony camera, Canon cameras, Fuji cameras, Ricoh cameras. I've tried the profiles with Panasonic and Nikon RAW files to make sure that they work perfectly across the board. So the first thing that I will always do is to select the profile out of the 4 profiles that are in the pack, and they're all a little bit different from one another. Natura, the standard one, is the profile that I created first, and it is very closely modeled off some popular Kodak film stocks that I've been shooting in 35mm and 120 recently, and I really love the look and feel of those images, so I tried to emulate that as close as possible. The S is a softer version of that, still the same, very similar color, but just a little bit softer in terms of the tones, the shadows, and the highlights. And then we have T, which is a little bit of a warmer version, so a little bit more warmth across the board, and the tones are just slightly different. And then Natura V is the vibrant version of the profile, so really boosting the saturation in certain areas when you want a little bit more color out of your images. So the first step always is to just cycle through these profiles and see which one I prefer the best for the type of image that I'm editing. And usually I'm going to keep that profile across the scene or across the entire shoot. So for this one, I actually really liked the look of Natura S. You can see it's a little bit more muted. And the first thing I'm going to do after applying this profile is just get my exposure to where I want it to be. So I like it to be quite bright, and I think this is a good spot for it. You don't really want to go too bright. You don't want to be blowing out your highlights sort of like this, but you want a nice amount of brightness to your image. At least that's what I like. And then I'm going to adjust the white balance. So it's a really critical part of the process, and I just want to make it look nice and natural. So we're just cooling it off a little bit. And then I do want to take a little bit of the magenta out, but not go too far towards green. So it's always a balancing act. And for me, this photo is a little bit off-centered. You probably noticed that already. So what I'm going to do is actually crop the image in, and I still want to include her necklace in the photo because I think that's a really cool detail of the outfit. So I'm going to bring it down, maybe so her eyes are on that third line. I really like that. You could even do a little bit more of a drastic crop and crop the top of the head here. And that also looks really cool as well. Could bring it in just a little bit. I actually really like that. I think I'm going to go with that as my final look. So as you can see, the image is already looking great. So that's the before and then the after using the profile. If you wanted to, you could add a little bit more contrast, which I actually find works quite well in some cases. So just adding that little bit more contrast just helps those features to pop a little bit more. Of course, you just want to create a really subtle amount of contrast, especially with photos of people. I find that moderation is always the best practice. With the profile as well, you will notice that all of the sliders are just set to default. So there's actually no adjustments here. So it actually gives you the freedom to go in and change any parameter that you want. You could pull the highlights all the way back and you have all that flexibility. Whereas with a preset, it's kind of already set for you. All those sliders have been changed, and when you're tweaking an image, it's more about changing those values, and sometimes you don't really know what you're doing and what kind of effect that it's going to have overall. But with the profile, the good thing is that everything is reset to 0, so you're basically free to go in and edit it how you like. And that's one of the big reasons why I transition from presets to profiles. Okay, so here we have an image of Ginger on the stairs, and I definitely framed this one straight out of camera a lot better than the last image. So I'm just going to go through and quickly have a look at the profiles. Because the scene has changed a little bit, we've gone from indoors to outdoors, I might decide to use a different profile, and I'm actually really loving the look of Natra V. I love the vibrant look of it. I think it really brings out the color here because there isn't a lot of color going on. So what I'm going to do is brighten up the image once again, but just slightly this time, and I'm going to cool the image down just a touch, and I actually think the tint is great where it is. So again, we have complete control with the sliders over this image, and I think I want to try something a little bit different here and go for more of a faded look. So I'm going to come down to the dehaze, and I'm actually going to reduce that a little bit just to kind of reduce the contrast overall. And then I'm going to come down to the curves, and I'm going to place a point in the middle and then a point at the bottom, and I'm actually going to raise the black point up a little bit and then just kind of counteract that with a point in the shadows, bringing that down just a touch. So we kind of have this like swoosh kind of look to our tone curve. So I'll show you a before and then an after. So it's kind of just like fading the black out a little bit. This happens a lot when you underexpose film. The shadows tend to be quite raised. Instead of a black, they're more of a middle gray. And depending on the film stock, they have kind of like a bluish, greenish cast to them. So we could add that in, but I actually really like the look of this image. So I will show you guys a before and then an after. So just for fun, let's bring up the lab scans that I shot on this day. So I actually shot some 120 film, some Kodak Gold alongside these digital photos. So I think I've got a photo here that's quite similar framing to this one. So let's just compare these two here. And it's not too far off given that I didn't even try to match these two. I pretty much just edited the photo in a similar way that I usually would when I'm delivering a catalog of digital images. All right, let's edit one last photo here. It's quite an underexposed image. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna choose maybe Natra T since we haven't used that one yet. It's got a little bit more of a kind of warm look to it. And I'm gonna go ahead and obviously brighten the image up quite a lot. And it is a little bit too warm here, so I'm just going to bring down the warmth, push it towards blue a little bit more, and I'm thinking of just adding just a touch more magenta. And the first thing that strikes me about this image, even though it does have brightness overall, is I feel like her face is just a little bit too bright, so I might use the highlights just to bring down like overall the exposure of the skin on that side of her face, and then maybe balance it a little bit with the highlights there. And then I think I might just add a little bit of saturation. And I'm thinking I want to crop this photo so she's more centered and get rid of those leaves on the ground. Probably usually clean up images like this a little bit, just like getting rid of these spots with, the remove tool in Lightroom. I'm probably not going to go overboard with that because it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure you guys have already used those tools before, but I would definitely clean up any image where I think it needed to be cleaned up. So even though we have brought back a little bit of highlights and a little bit of shadows in this image, I think that it's kind of washed it out just a little bit. So I'm going to go in and bring in a little bit of contrast here to the image, and I'm really liking how that's looking. So that's the before, very, very dark, and then the after. So that's pretty much how I use the profile. It is not complicated at all, and it's not meant to be. Over the years, I've just been in this continual process of trying to streamline my workflow so that it is fast, efficient, and I get to the place that I want to get to really, really quickly. So this profile has been an absolute game changer. I will leave the link down in the description below if you guys are interested in picking it up. Yes, this video has been kind of like a big advertisement for these profiles, but I genuinely do use them, and I think they're a pretty good tool for editing your photos. And of course, if you guys pick up any of my preset packs or profiles, that actually helps to support my channel. It helps me to continue making videos for you guys. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has already picked up the pack. Again, if you haven't got the update, make sure you go grab that now. And I really appreciate you guys for sticking around. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments section below. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I've got some really exciting ones coming up, some behind the scenes shoots that I'm really keen to show you guys. So yeah, see you in the next one.